What's up, guys? It's your boy Cypher Providence, back at it again with another YouTube review. Back at it with another horror marathon video. In today's video, we'll be doing a double feature, first of its kind, for The Strangers. As you can see, we have the poster for the second movie called The Strangers Prey at Night. We're going to be talking about both movies in one review, as I felt like, at least for some of these films, if they have sequels, I will just be, I will at least try to do a double feature for them. So I watched the first one and then the second one. I won't always be doing that, as I do want to save maybe some movies for next year, or potential later down reviews that I might do throughout the year if I have the time or feel like it. So without further ado, let's talk about these movies. So we're gonna be talking about the first one to start off, as I would like to compare the first one and then to the second one, but I want to first talk about the first one so we could get through with it, and talk about how the second one, spoilers, does improve upon some of the things that I liked but was hoping for more of in the first one. So, the first one, The Strangers, was released in 2008. The opening established like the opening scene and establishing moments for the characters was done well and was good, but I felt like they kind of dragged on with it too much. And then once it carried over into like when we were starting to get into like the action and the more suspenseful and thriller-ish kind of sections, it didn't really like pace itself well enough. Like, I felt like it was just like, I don't know, like there was just something wrong with it, which is why like, or something was off about it, which is why like it just felt like it dragged for too long. And then by the time we were getting into like the middle to ending portions of the movies, I was kind of like dipping out of it, like a focus. Like, there were times where it kind of dragged me back in with like a scare or like a moment or two, but aside from that, it wasn't really like anything special. Opening scene was great, but everything following that was kind of, eh. And as we get on, we could talk about like the story and how like I felt like whatever they were trying to go with for this one wasn't necessarily followed up on in a excellent way, aside from maybe the ending, which I did like, but I felt like I kind of wanted more. In this one, the characters weren't that interesting. The two main leads, I didn't even write their names. That's how like uninterested I was by them. Were kind of just like whatever. Like, they were a couple who the male of the two was going to propose to her, but ended up falling through, and so the proposal was rejected, I'm pretty sure, and they kind of just went back to whatever lodge home thing that they were at, or that they were spending their time at, and then the movie goes off from there. And I don't know, I just like, I felt like the establishing, like I said, the establishing scenes for them were good or great at like getting us to like see that despite them not despite the main female lead not reciprocating the marriage proposal feelings towards our male lead, aside from that, they didn't really give me enough to like make me like them as characters. Aside from that, like, aside from the fact that like I saw that they still cared for each other, and I thought that was really like an cool and interesting twist onto like the whole marriage proposal denial, and then your characters hating each other or whatever. I felt like, you know, like aside from like some slight resentment, they really did still care about each other and love each other, which was really nice to see. Besides from that, it was like what like I couldn't even really honestly give you very much like big character points or moments, you know? And then to add on to that, I feel like because of that, it made the story kind of feel like a slog to get through. Like in every movie that I've watched so far for this, and even like movies in general, I feel like the characters kind of help like gear you towards wanting to finish the movie. Like if you're invested in those characters, or maybe in like a perverse way, you're not invested into those characters, but you hate them so much that you like want to see what happens to them. If it's something bad or something, you know, like it can those characters can get you through the movie. But I feel like in this situation, the characters are kind of so dull and boring, at least to me, that like I don't know, I just was not interested in the movie. Of course, there were scenes that like kind of gripped me because like I was uh hooked on like kind of like the suspenseful aspects of them. But aside from that, like two scenes in particular, I thought were good. Like two scares and everything were good. But aside from that, it was just like otherwise it was boring and like a slog to get through, as I said. Actually, you know, I would say there's three scenes that were good. The third scene being towards the end, which kind of leads to the like finale of the movie overall. But aside from that, it was just like I was kind of bored watching it, and like it was kind of hard for me to get through it. There was, however, there was one good line delivered by, I don't know, like I don't know these characters' names. I forgot to do research on who they themselves are called. I'm just gonna call him Scarecrow negative 1.0, and then I don't know, mom and daughter, I guess. So these are horrible names, but the daughter character, in quotations, the daughter character had a very good line in the first one, in which she said, or the main leads asked like, why are you doing this to us? Why are you like trying to kill us or whatever? And she just says, because you were home. And that kind of like, if the movie had been better, it would have sold me better on everything. But that kind of like just sold me on like the idea of what this film was trying to go for, which is like these two were, had they not been home, none of this would have happened. Had they been somewhere else, they would have been fine. But because they were home, it happened. And like it's just crazy to think that like crimes like, and then like to additionally credit this film as well. It started off with like, I was kind of put off by it, but they started off the film with like addressing that this at least the first one, at least, it was based on a true story. So the idea that like crimes like these happen legitimately just because you were home is like kind of terrifying, and so it added an element for me to like about this film. And then which I really dug, like that story aspect of just like, oh, just because you were home we decided to do that. I like that. But then the story of like, you know, like kind of, because we'll see it carry into the next film as well, which isn't like a direct sequel, but it includes these characters at least. So I don't know if it's a continuation in the same universe or if it's just a continuation of like the overarching idea of the film or of these films. But the kind of story that they, at least from what I'm assuming at least, was that these characters are put in like troubling situations and troubling times, and despite like prior grievances and everything and prior problems that they have, they ended up coming together through this trauma, which I think is a very good story that you can tell. I just felt like the moments kind of dragged it and kind of bored me to the point where I didn't really like end up caring, in particular for these character stories for the first one. So overall, give it like a 5 out of 10. And then I wrote on my notes, I said hopefully the sequel is better, because I felt like if I got two of these straight back-to-back boring movies, I would have been very sad and disappointed. Possibly would have gave it a lower score because of that. But as we'll see, the sequel was better, at least in my opinion. So yeah, 5 out of 10. Pretty average movie, pretty mid movie. So now going on to the sequel, The Strangers Prey at Night. I thought this one was significantly better. Released in 2018. My first note for this, before the movie was even over, I'm pretty sure this is like at like maybe 15 minutes in, I just wrote down infinitely a better movie. Because a lot of my criticisms for the previous one, like how I felt like it was slow, how I felt like the story was kind of dragged down by how slow and not paced this one, or well paced this one, at least for me, was, and how despite like the initial scene being really good at kind of telling the story, and the beginning and ending scenes kind of being good enough parts to really sell the story, the middle portion did not really help it in that situation. Where I felt like this one did. This one, where that one fails because of the characters, how not well paced it is, and how not storytelling wise, how they didn't really like tell the story that well, at least in my opinion. This one had better characters with better character dynamics between them. You know what? Since I actually like this one a lot more, we'll be looking up the character's name, because I was kind of speedrunning doing this review, or at least doing notes. Strangers Prey at Night. The mom and dad of this film did really well to sell me on the both their relationship as husband and wife, and also the brother and sister selling me on the idea of them being brothers and sisters, and then the whole dynamic of the family being good as well. Let me see. So Mike is the husband, Sydney is the wife, Luke is the brother, and then Kenzie is the sister. Mike and Cindy did wonderful jobs at portraying themselves as husband and wife throughout this film, that I was really like hooked on their dynamic. Mike and Luke had really good standout moments towards whenever they had scenes together. Sydney and Kinsey had excellent scenes together at the beginning of this film. Also towards the middle-ish portion of this film, when one of the characters ended up dying. I'm not going to spoil who, as I really like this film and I would recommend you guys checking it out. And yeah, so I felt like the standout performance of these in particular, though, was Kinsey. I felt like Kinsey and Luke, to an extent, really showed themselves as characters, which I really liked. And I liked how all their dynamics were. Oh yeah, and then Kinsey and Luke also, just their dynamic as well was really great. But yeah, they all sold me on the characters, which is like a huge improvement in comparison to the prior film, which I really loved. As I said, it was paced better as well. Like, they really got into this. It's where in the first 20-ish minutes of the first one is still kind of establishing the dynamics of the main characters. This one, having already established the dynamics of the characters and have done it in a better and well received manner. They are already getting into the action and the thriller and the suspense already, which I absolutely loved. This one was more intense, easily more intense, as I said, because it got right into it and had a better atmosphere. I felt like everything that they kind of did in the first one was either ramped up or they improved upon in the intensity from start all the way to end, which I really liked. The sound design of this film was alright. Similar, I don't think I mentioned the sound design in the first one, but that should probably just speak on how I really thought about it. Aside from like maybe 2 parts in the first one, the sound design was whatever. But this one, at least, like, it improved upon that and made it from like whatever to alright to slash good. And then it also had its moments in this film as well, with when one of the characters end up dying and then they find that person's body. One of the characters ends up like having this moment where like it's like kind of white noise and you realize that like they're in like pure shock. And it's like, I just thought that was really good sound design, really sold you on them being like in shock with what was happening and everything, and I really enjoyed it. Had some banger songs in here. Banger songs. The 2 songs that I'm referring to are called, drumroll ladies and gentlemen, Cambodia by Kim Wilde, and then Making Love Out of Nothing at All by, I think it's Air Supply. Yeah, Air Supply. Banger songs. I really like them. From what I've heard, really good. I hope whenever I go and fully listen to them that they're as like, that they bring out, or that they sound just as good as they did in the movie. My bad. As I said, improves upon everything, damn near everything that the first one tried to do, and it does it well. Improves on the character dynamics and characters as a whole. It improves on the atmosphere. It improves on the intensity and thrill and suspense of it. It wasn't a boring slog to get through. It was very like, I enjoyed the story. And then yeah, and then to compare the first one, like I was saying I was gonna do, where the story was like, you know, they despite prior grievances, they ended up kind of rekindling their love for each other and their you know, getting despite being after coming through such a traumatic experience. This one does that, or the first one did that, but it didn't tell it as tell it in a good enough manner for me to like justifiably believe the ending we got to. Even though I thought the ending was like, I saw what they were going for, so I appreciated it. I didn't think it was as good. Whereas this one, it does that story, but it does it better because it actually made me think that by the end of it, all of the characters, at least at one moment or another, had like rekindled their prior relationships, or at least reflected upon them in a sense where they thought, if I still had the chance to, you know, be able to talk to this person or something, I would say this, this, and this, or I would have done this, this, because it told that the story from the first one just better, infinitely better than this one. And then yeah, like it improved on all the criticisms I had for this film. Only thing that oh, and then I don't even think I talked about this with the first one, but the characters were just making stupid decisions. It felt like, for the sake of making stupid decisions. Like there were scenes where they could have easily like called the cops or ran away or drove away or whatever, but they didn't. The second one improves on this slightly, where characters are still making stupid decisions, but there are scenes in which like they kind of establish like, oh, even though they kind of made this stupid decision here or whatever, they had their reason, or there was a reason, albeit maybe not a good one, but there was a reason as to why, or there was a reason as to why this character couldn't do this, or why this character didn't have this on them or whatever, you know. And I really appreciate that. There's only, I think, one scene in this particular film where you can question the validity of what's happening in that scene, but even then I kind of brushed over it because I was enjoying the movie as much as I was. Overall, this film, really solid, really good. I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot, especially in comparison to the first one. So with that said, my score for this one is going to be an 8.5 out of 10, as I really enjoyed it. I felt like it improved on all the aspects in the first one, especially the things that I liked in the first one that I felt weren't executed upon as well. I felt like this film ended up executing upon them well, if not very, very good, aside from maybe one or two aspects, which even then they still improved upon, but not to the standard I would have hoped they improved it on, based off of everything else they improved on. But yeah, with that out of the way, we got this double feature finished and done. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. Remember to like, follow, or subscribe, I guess. My bad. Like, subscribe, comment, and share this video out with anyone else. Let's get us to 500 subscribers. And yeah, also follow the socials. I will hopefully be tagging them in this video, or at least showing you guys what my socials are, so you guys can follow it if you aren't already followed. And yeah, peace. Yo, this is my Instagram. Please follow it. I'll have updates for any uploads in case you guys missed it. And with that out of the way, peace again.